Welcome to Perimenopause Hell. This video is about skipping periods and what happens when you stop ovulating regularly. Now, if we look at this diagram, you've got two diagrams of different uteruses here. This one on the right has a thicker lining inside of it, which is something that doctors call endometrial hyperplasia. And basically, this is what your womb starts to look like when you've skipped a couple of periods. The womb lining becomes very thick. This is because most likely you didn't ovulate, but your body has gone on producing estrogen, maybe for 8 weeks or even 3 months. So when you start bleeding, you have a lot of womb lining to shed. And that can take you maybe 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how long it is since you last had a period. There are a lot of reasons for this. The most common one in perimenopause is that you're reaching the later stages of perimenopause, and that means that you're not ovulating so regularly. Ovulation really controls the timing of your menstrual cycles. You would expect to ovulate on day 14. Your body then makes something called progesterone, and the progesterone is made by a little blister on the ovary where the egg pops out. And the progesterone is made by that blister that's called the corpus luteum for the next few days. On day 26, the progesterone stops being made and the blister is healed. And within the next 48 hours after the progesterone is stopped, then you start bleeding. So if you don't ovulate, you don't make any progesterone, and the timing of your periods just goes completely askew. The progesterone is not there to stop being made, and there's nothing to trigger your period starting. So this is what causes the whole business of skipping periods, and your body just carries on building that womb lining until it starts to break down naturally. So I can explain it to you like this, that your womb lining is like a brick wall. Now, the estrogen that your body makes is like the bricks, and the progesterone is like the mortar that holds them all together. Now, when you don't ovulate, your body doesn't make any progesterone, it just makes the estrogen. And so it keeps piling to produce your womb lining. It's making a wall, but it's not making any mortar. And so the lining of your uterus gets thicker and thicker, but there's no mortar holding all of the bricks together. That makes your womb lining very unstable. There's nothing to glue those bricks together with, which means that you might experience spotting. So, say, for example, you had sexual intercourse, the activity and the movement may cause some of those bricks to fall down. So you may experience some bleeding or spotting after sex. That's quite common. And of course, because of the lack of progesterone, the quality of the blood can vary, and it's not normal in terms of your average period that you used to have. So you may go for that 2 or 3 months without bleeding. And then you may experience bleeding, which is really quite odd. And it's not your normal kind of period at all. And this is because it's actually called breakthrough bleeding. And it's a result of that unstable uterine lining. So what you might experience is something like this. The blood might actually be quite thin and watery, or it might be clotty. It's not the normal texture that the progesterone would have given you. It might stop and start, and it might last a long time. It can be all sorts of different shades of normal. So it can be spotty, flooding, it can stop and start, it can be clots, it can be watery and thin, it can drip like a tap. You know, there's all sorts of different ways that this blood can come out. And as many of you have seen, it can go on and on and on for an awfully long time. Of course, in the past, women just used to have to put up with this, and in some cases they would have hysterectomies. These days we've got medicines to deal with this, but that's a whole separate video, I will just mention to you, most women know that progesterone can stop the bleeding altogether, but there is one that isn't hormonal and it doesn't cause quite so many side effects as progesterones do. Tranexamic acid, otherwise known as Lysteda in the States. If you go to the emergency room with your heavy bleeding, probably they will just roll their eyes at you and give you an injection of tranexamic acid. You can take it in pill form, and it's best to take it at the start of your bleeding. You're only supposed to take it for a few days though, so if you're just having spotting, you won't want to start taking it then. I won't go into great detail about how tranexamic acid works in this video, because really that's for another day, another video. But that is my treatment of choice for women going through this phase of bleeding. And although it may be rather dispiriting, it means you're kind of on the home run here, because you are at least starting to skip periods. That means you're nearer to menopause than you were when you were having regular periods. So although this is a very hard phase, it means you're on your way out. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video there. If you found this video interesting and informative, then please like and subscribe and all that jazz. Thank you for listening.